Welcome back. I'm Tim Boyum. The day before President Trump speaks to a joint session of Congress, the investigation into his campaign's ties to Russia continues to make headlines. In the center of it all, North Carolina Senator Richard Burr, who heads up the Senate Intelligence Committee. He joins us from Washington tonight. Senator, good to see you, sir. Thanks for some time.
Tim, great to be with you.
All right, let's start with this. The Washington Post acknowledged that you had conversations with the White House and engaged with news organizations to dispute those stories by the New York Times and CNN about the supposed constant contact between Trump campaign aides and Russian intelligence operatives. You've been criticized by some Democrats that today, considering you are the chair of the Intelligence Committee. Why do you think it was appropriate?
Well, as I said in the article, I didn't do anything that jeopardized or compromised in any way the integrity of the investigation. I simply had two conversations with two different media outlets on one specific thing, and that's the New York Times claim that there were phone records or call logs that were held by government entities. And prior to even being briefed by the FBI director last week, the week before when we left, where he denied that, I had already called and checked whether such logs existed. They didn't. And the only reason that I participated in two briefings or two calls with reporters was that I knew this to be non-factual. And I wanted to make sure that I shared that part of it. Mine was not to beat back any major story that they had, but certainly the lead piece in it I found to be false.
So there wasn't any classified information and you weren't asked to push back?
No, there was no classification of the information. I had called, asked a question, gotten the information. The reality is that I didn't do anything inappropriate or in any way compromise the integrity of the investigation that I take extremely serious.
Well, you know, though, Senator, about perception and how that can go in politics and the media as well. Why do that and jeopardize any potential even perception about an independent investigation from your committee?
Tim, you can't just say anything in America and believe that you can get away with it. The most common last name for a news story today is anonymous. And this is crazy. This gets reported over and over and over again. The fact is that call logs do not exist. And given that's not a classified issue within the committee, again, I had this conversation prior to Director Comey coming in and testifying in front of the committee. He went into much more, which I can't share. And the reality is that I believe that when you hear something that's false, you have an obligation to go out and say it as long as you don't breach the confidentiality of the investigation.
George W. Bush this morning said that we all need more information about potential ties and said if you called for a special prosecutor, it might have more credibility with him. Would you consider a special prosecutor?
Today, no. The committee has yet to complete its investigation. If at the end of that we found a reason to have a special prosecutor, I would gladly go out and call for one. But there's been nothing to suggest that this raises to the level of a special prosecutor. There's certainly questions that arise about what type of contacts might have taken place. And I think when the American people get to see the transcripts of General Flynn's conversation with the Russian ambassador, they'll find that there's nothing there that would have caused his resignation. Maybe it was more what he relayed to the vice president or didn't relay to the vice president that caused his job to be terminated.
Do you know of any evidence connecting Trump campaign aides to Russian operatives at this point?
I'm not going to comment on that because we're in the investigation, and quite honestly, that will be left up to the Federal Bureau of Investigation. We're not an investigatory committee. We do oversight. We'll look at things until there's a reason for the FBI to say you can't go any further. They have yet to do that to my committee.
President Trump is reportedly going to ask for a spike in national defense spending while making large cuts elsewhere in the budget. Is that the right way to go?
Well, I think increasing defense spending right now is a really crucial thing. I got beat up last week because I was overseas doing my job, actually meeting with the Germans, the French, and the Brits over Russia and its aggression on the European continent. Part of that is the lack of leadership that we've provided over the last 4 years, and the fact that we don't have the same military deployment there as a deterrent that we've had in the past. So I welcome the President's 10% increase, if that's accurate, to the military budget. I'll wait to see where they propose cuts. But here again, I remind you and your listeners, the budget is something that's in the control of Congress. It's not done by executive dictate. So Congress will take the President's wishes and will process that in a responsible way.
You mentioned the criticism that you received and being out of the country. There's been a lot of talk about these town halls and whether that they should be doing them. Why are you not doing town halls?
Very simple. I've never done town halls. I've never been accused of hiding from my constituents, and I continue to do the same thing now. I continue to do teletown hall meetings where I talk to tens of thousands of people in one hour-long phone call. I continue to meet with individuals one-on-one, in groups. I don't shy away from civic clubs where I give speeches. It's just the congressional schedule has been a little bit difficult to be home very much for the first 2 months of this year. And matched with my day job, which is chairman of the Intelligence Committee, I've already done 2 international travels in the first 2 months. They're not easy, but they're part of my job.
You mentioned those travels, talking about intelligence. Right or wrong, it's been a tumultuous 4 weeks potentially for intelligence. What are you hearing around the world, and are you confident in where the White House is moving?
Well, I'm confident that the White House is formulating a plan for Syria and for ISIL. I'm confident that the White House understands the threat that Russia plays, and that they're taking action both in the budget and in strategies. I'm also well aware of the fact that the world hadn't gotten safer, that our partners are looking for us for leadership. They want to know what America's strategy is, and they want to know how they integrate into that. I've gotten that message from Asia throughout Europe, and this won't stop with those 2 trips. Typically, I travel a number of times a year, and this year will be even more aggressive than in the past for the simple reason that we've got so many international concerns. It was reported yesterday that we took out the number 2 person in Al-Qaeda this weekend on Sunday in Syria. These are all positive things, but until we've eliminated the threat, we can't rest. We've got to continue to prosecute terrorism and prosecute aggression.
All right, Senator Burr, I know time is precious these days. Thank you so much for spending a little time with us. Appreciate it, sir.
Tim, great to be with you. Look forward to being with you in person sometime soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Time for one last break. When we return, a reporter roundtable talks about the back and forth among elected officials this weekend over HB2. We'll be right back.